Summer Sleepover, a new horror short from Adult Swim, is guaranteed to give Rick and Morty fans the chills. Claymation creator Lee Hardcastle made this bizarre Halloween special that aired on HBO Max and Adult Swim's YouTube page. When it comes to the 10-minute clip, how much information do we have? Where is the relevance to Rick and Morty Season 6? Could it really be that terrifying? Why don't we find out? To begin, Rick and Morty fans, this Adult Swim's messed up horror short will haunt you. Adult Swim's new horror short, Summer Sleepover, is appropriately frightening for Rick and Morty fans. Lee Hardcastle, a claymation filmmaker, created this surreal 10-minute special, which ran on HBO Max and Adult Swim's YouTube channel over Halloween. You can tell something is wrong from the first weird mutterings. Summer tries to enjoy herself with her friends on the spookiest night of the year, until an unexpected guest comes. It may be the strangest, grossest, and most disturbing thing you watch today. But Rick and Morty Season 6 is here, and that's what we're all here for, right? Shannon Conlon is Mashable's UK editor, headquartered in London, and was previously Mashable's Australia editor, but she lives in the Creel house emotionally. Moving on, every horror movie parody in Rick and Morty. First, Lawnmower Dog, Nightmare on Elm Street. The first horror parody on the program was Rick and Morty's Lawnmower Dog, Season 1, Episode 2. While Rick has been manipulating Morty and everyone else from the show's beginning, Lawnmower Dog saw the anti-hero assist his grandson with one of Morty's problems for the first time. Though this didn't make their mission any less disastrous. In what began of a parody of Inception, Rick and Morty broke into Morty's principal's dreams to persuade him to raise Morty's grades. Scary Terry, an obvious imitation of a Nightmare on Elm Street's franchise monster Freddy Krueger, quickly pursued the couple, who turned out to be more laid back than the protagonists had expected. Next, at number 2, Anatomy Park, Jurassic Park. Rick and Morty's Anatomy Park debuted one episode after imitating Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street, Rick and Morty Season 1, Episode 3. This time, Rick created an amusement park within the body of a homeless guy in what began as a Fantastic Voyage parody. Once Morty entered the gruesome tourist attraction, the plot quickly shifted from Fantastic Voyage to Spielberg's famous blockbuster horror film. As the title suggests, Anatomy Park was jam-packed with Jurassic Park references, from the Bono Rail to guest star John Oliver's Dr. Xenon Bloom, a figure who parodies Richard Attenborough's Jurassic Park character, John Hammond. Despite its title, Rick and Morty Season 6's Jurassic Mort did not mimic the movie again. Following that, at number 3, Rick Potion number 9, David Cronenberg's many body horror movies. Throughout his illustrious film career, David Cronenberg has directed a wide range of films. While the director has received accolades for his sensitive, intimate dramas and biting satires, he is most known for one thing. Cronenberg's body horror films are horror cinema folklore, with classics such as The Fly, The Brood, Videodrome, and Scanners, ensuring that Cronenberg is best recognized for the inventive ways his films have torn apart and reassembled the human form. Rick and Morty's Rick Potion number 9, Season 1, Episode 6, makes no secret of its inspiration, with Rick naming the horrific genetic anomalies in the Rick and Morty Season 1 episode, Cronenberg's. Moving on, at number 4, Something Wicked, This Way Comes, Needful Things. Stephen King's work has been imitated numerous times by shows such as South Park and The Simpsons, but Rick and Morty pulled off the incredible feat of basing not one, but 2 unique episodes on the horror author's work. The first of these 2 spoofs, Something Wicked This Way Comes, Season 1, Episode 9, was a parody of King's novel Needful Things and its film version. Although borrowing the title from Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes, the frightening man opens an odd store that briefly employs Summer in the episode. But his goal is thwarted when Rick immediately recognizes him as the devil and opens a competitive business. Next, at number 5, Look Who's Purging Now, The Purge. While Rick and Morty Season 1 was full of horror movie parodies, it took a little longer for Rick and Morty Season 2 to return to this theme. Nonetheless, Look Who's Purging Now, Season 2, Episode 9, was well worth the wait. Rick and Morty's spoof of The Purge was a brilliant satire that even foreshadowed one of the horror franchise's later expansions, when Morty asked his potential love interest how the custom of purging originated. While this was Morty's idea of small conversation, the question was eventually answered in one of the Purge's prequels years later. Moving on, At number 7, Prometheus. Although not everyone liked Ridley Scott's Alien prequel, Prometheus, there was no disputing that the 2012 film was ambitious. Similarly, Prometheus Season 4, Episode 7 couldn't be faulted for trying to break up the show's format. Long before Rick and Morty's new formula made Rick less of a prominent character in Season 6, Prometheus gave Summer a lead role while requiring Rick and Morty to face the consequences of their actions when they returned to a planet they slaughtered to retrieve her. Prometheus, a smart parody of genre tropes, was inspired as the movie it mocked, if a little more comprehensible. Following that, at number 8, a Mortican Graffiti, Hellraiser, Clive Barker's legendary 1980s thriller, was a twisted tale of agony, pleasure, and the thin boundary between the two that spawned an entire franchise and current reboot. However, Rick and Morty's A Mortican Graffiti Season 5, Episode 5 rendered the entire series unscary by exposing the plot flaws that atmospheric horror films were so good at hiding. In A Mortican Graffiti, one of Rick and Jerry's best adventures, Jerry delights the Cenobites with his unfunny attempts at comedy, only for Rick to eventually liberate his son-in-law from the hellbound residence by pointing out the contradictions of their entire pleasure equals pain attitude. The Rick and Morty Hellraiser parody was the program's newest horror movie spoof, and it was a great excursion, demonstrating why the show utilizes horror movie parodies so frequently. Up next at number 9, Season 1, Episode 5, Me Seek and Destroy, Fairy Tales. The sequence in which Rick and Morty climb Jack's beanstalk in an attempt to kill the giant is one of the most memorable moments in this episode. However, after that, we see the giant die a humiliating death, which is difficult to watch. Then his giant's wife and child come out to express their sorrow for him, and rather than Rick and Morty being able to flee blamelessly with a bag full of gold, they were taken into custody by the giants. Because there is no video of that particular scene available on YouTube, we will look at another clip from the same fairy tale show that is unsettling. Morty encounters Mr. Jellybean, the monarch of a fantasy village, in the restroom, and Mr. Jellybean attempts to molest Morty. It's terrifying to think about. Moving on, at number 10, Season 1, Episode 7, Raising Gazorpazorp, Zardoz, Raising Arizona. The sci-fi thriller Zardoz, which starred Sean Connery and was released in 1974, served as the primary source of inspiration for the storyline of this episode. In the show Raising Gazorpazorp, mysterious giant heads arrive on Earth and demand one entertainment act from humanity to participate in a competition, similar to an intergalactic version of X Factor. The title of this episode is a reference to the Coen brothers' film Raising Arizona, which was released in 1987. In another storyline connected to this one, Morty is raising a son that he accidentally created via a mysterious sex robot. The whole thing is shrouded in a great deal of secrecy. Following that, at number 11, Season 1, Episode 8, Rick's D-Minutes, Game of Thrones, Letterman, Cloud Atlas, SNL, Garfield, Die Hard. In this episode, Rick plugs his TV into an alternate dimension, enabling him and Morty to watch a wide variety of bizarre content on TV, much of which is a parody of the content we watch. For example, in one version of Game of Thrones, Tyrion is a giant, and in Cloud Atlas, Jerry plays the role of Morty's father. Next up at number 12, Season 2, Episode 2, Morty Night Run, BioShock, David Bowie. This episode doesn't parody any particular film, but it references the twist-filled video game BioShock by using the phrase, "Would you kindly?" It also features Jermaine Clement of Flight of the Conchords doing an excellent impression of David Bowie as a psychedelic celestial cloud called Fart. Finally, at number 13, Season 2, Episode 3, Autoerotic Assimilation, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Community. Rick's ex-girlfriend, Unity, who is revealed to be a terrifying hive mind figure, makes an appearance in this episode. It is essentially a retelling of the Cold War-era anti-communist film Invasion of the Body Snatchers. The key change is that Rick's twisted ego leads the hive mind's perfectly organized civilization to come apart in this version. When Rick is watching television, he narrates a short history of the evolution of that show, including its genesis, cancellation, reincarnation, and eventual destruction. Well, that marks the end of our video. We hope you enjoyed it. On your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more content in the future. And thanks for watching.